personal finance doesn't have to be difficult. I know at this point in my life, it's on autopilot for me. I spend, no joke, at most 10 minutes a month. 10 minutes a month on my personal finance. And that's just because I have to write 2 checks a month that I can't figure out how to automate.
Probably, why won't they let me do this?
People are going to yell at me. I'm sure there are ways to do this, but that's part of my 10 minutes a month, right? Because everything else just works. It flows. I've spent time on it. I have that mental model. I know where I want to allocate my resources, and it just happens.
So I just recently moved to a new home, and when you move to a new home, you have to set up all these utilities again, and all of them required a check for that first month. And so I spent an hour. So you talked about 10 minutes. I spent an hour creating the checks for these 5 or 6 different vendors in order for my life to operate. And I thought to myself, I remember I've had conversations with people and they're saying, well, yeah, every month it's probably about, 10, 12 hours that I take to pay the bills. I was like, what? For the last 5 years, this has just been on autopilot.
This hypothetical person, I spend 8 to 10 hours. I think you said 10 to 12, but I mean, some absurd number of hours per month doing the bills. And I think this actually is another benefit of FI that we don't think about when we list our many benefits. Is we've talked about not having to worry about cash flow, but really one of the side benefits, why are people spending so much time on their bills? It's because they're worried they don't have enough money in their checking account for when that auto draft would come otherwise. This is a big fear of people. And we've never actually put this into words, but it's true. I've said I have more money in my checking account than I probably should, but it's a comfort point for me personally, because then I never, ever, ever have to worry about cash flow. So if we had a larger credit card bill that month, there's that extra cushion in there. I don't have to think about it. So it's taking that mental worry and just eliminating it, right? But if I was worried about every little bill, the $120 electric bill or something like that, that's why it takes 10 hours a month, because you have to painstakingly write out every single check for every single bill, hope you have enough money, time it exactly right for when this thing's coming out, that thing's coming in. That to me that's crazy. Whereas for me, it all operates on autopilot. And again, it's just this 1 or 2 checks that I have to write a month, which still bothers the heck out of me, frankly, but it's on autopilot. And a lot of that is because of financial independence. I'm in a place where, because I've been going down this path to FI, I simply don't have to worry about cash flow anymore.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, what's interesting about that is I remember I originally set up these 8 checking accounts to basically each month, and this worked. I'll say it actually did work. I would take, all right, so if I'm going to allocate $300 or $400 a month for food, I will throw that grocery money into this one account. I'll throw bills into this. And so my 10 minutes would just basically be allocating the auto transfer or the transfer of that money into one of those accounts, and I would spend out of that respective card, and I just followed a budget. I'm using YNAB now, and I realized that you just don't need to do that. So YNAB can do all of the heavy lifting for you, and you have the money allocated in these various accounts for the purpose that they're intended. I can look at my YNAB account, and yes, I have a balance, but even more than a specific amount that I have in a checking account, I have a goal for that money, right? So basically, instead of having to have 8 checking accounts that I'm managing, and this is the worst part of that plan, the bank company every 12 months was sending me, brand new debit cards for all of these, right? I was getting 8 to 12 debit cards every 12 to 24 months. I still have 36 debit cards that I need to shred because they're just in a bin. You can see how it goes south. And so slowly I've been letting those accounts die off. But basically at the end of the day, now I have one checking account with enough money in there for 1 to 2 months worth of spending, and YNAB has already assigned that out. I have my credit card that I do all my spending on, so I'm still getting points for all of that, et cetera. And my cash flows, it just set up so it pays off the balance in full at the end of the statement. YNAB's already allocated the money, so my budget is being kept. And on top of that, I don't have any debit cards flooding my house anymore. And then for my savings account, Ed introduced a CIT savings account that it's a high interest savings account. And as of August 28th, when we're recording this, it was a 2.3% interest rate. Now, this was the final flaw in my plan, is that while I was doing a great job, I don't expect to make significant interest on my checking account. My savings account at USA was getting an atrocious 0.2%, something ridiculous. I think on a pretty significant emergency fund that was there, I was making I don't know. I don't even want to do the math on it. And I just was complacent because it was just there. And I never really looked for anything else. Well, Ed showed me that one, if you're putting at least $100 a month into this savings account, you're guaranteed that interest rate. Or if you have, I believe it's $25,000 in this account, then you get it. You don't have to make any additional deposits. You're going to lock in that thing.
Okay. There's value for many people in the envelope system, but you took that a digital step forward and made that envelope system online. And I suspect while you had to be flooded with debit cards and who knows how much time it took you to set that up. Now, obviously today, you're a much wiser person and you have a system that works for you and it works on autopilot. And I think even just something simple you mentioned in there that a lot of people don't realize, like you auto pay your credit cards, right? So there's, at least on every credit card that I've ever opened, there's an auto pay option for entire balance. And you set it up on the day of the payments due, or you can usually actually pick the day of the month if that makes your life a little easier, and just set it up. So you never have to worry about, oh, am I going to get a late payment fee? Am I going to have to pay interest this month? Like one of kind of my guiding lights for personal finance, and I don't mention this all that often, but if you're paying fees for anything, something has gone horribly awry. There might be a credit card or two that I've very intentionally and purposefully decided there is enough value in this for me to warrant paying the fee. But I am not just getting hit by some errant fee every month because I'm unaware, right? Like, I think that's one of the parts of financial independence that we all need to just have our eyes open, be intentional.